Three, two, we are live. Jack, what's going on?
Nothing much, man. I'm a little disappointed in myself this morning, actually. I set my alarm for 4:45, thinking I was going to get up, and I was debating whether to work out or work on some videos, and I did neither. I phoned it in till 7 a.m. until I had to get up for work, so I'm a little disappointed in myself. But other than that, I'm all good. This is episode number 2 of the No One Told Me Hockey Podcast. How you doing today, Fletcher? What do we got going on today? Give me a
I'm
rundown.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. 4:45. That is an early start, but you know
It
what?
didn't
There's nothing.
start. It never started at that
You know
time.
what though? There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with the sleep in because, as they say in the collegiate athletic world, recovery is a weapon.
It really
So,
is. It
so
is.
me,
You got to take advantage of that time when you get the chance to recover.
I love it. I love it. I, on the other hand, I did not recover this morning. I was up early. I was at the gym at 5, running on the treadmill. We'll get into a little bit of gym talk later on, but good start to the day for me. And then I spent most of my day breaking down film, and we had practice, and we're prepping for a couple games this weekend. So we did a little post scout from last weekend and a little bit of pre scout for this upcoming weekend. So spent a lot of my day looking at my computer and setting up the video using Instat. Do you guys use Instat?
No, we did not. I honestly don't know what we used. I feel like we switch programs every year on video, but no, we
So
didn't. What is
so
that?
a lot of the collegiate programs, at least teams that I've kind of been around, have used Instat as like a way for players to watch their own shifts afterward.
Mm-hmm.
So Instat's actually a European company. I think it's based in Russia, and they're
Oh, wow.
using. They claim their claim to fame is that they don't use artificial intelligence. So people are actually watching every single game, breaking down shots, scoring chances, player shifts, time on ice, and then they send you that file. It also gives you access to like look up player history, which I did a little bit today about myself in my
Oh,
free
no.
time.
Oh, no.
Give yourself. You can search any player in there. It's a great recruiting tool, especially because it saves a lot of money. You can watch any game.
Do junior teams use it? Do quite a few junior teams use it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my group did in Springfield, and a lot of guys on the team actually, their junior teams did as well, and they actually still have those accounts. So some of it's carried over, which is nice.
Oh, that is nice. That's
Yeah.
really nice. I could see that being useful for like kids in terms of like being able to clip their videos maybe and send it out to schools and stuff from, making that transition from junior to college.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But it was fun today. So I had this little quick story to start us off. So obviously I had some free time. So I searched myself in the
Oof.
Instat. And thank God we don't have the subscription that lets you see former players, like players that stopped playing. So all you could see on my account was goals, assists, and what Instat calls best actions and what Instat calls worst actions. So I'm sitting
How
in
about
my
how about you got a guy in Russia going, that was a brutal play by this guy.
Yes. But the best part is like what this guy thinks was my worst actions. They clipped like 7 or 8, said I had 8 worst actions. If my career only had 8 mistakes, I should be in the NHL.
You're
But
you're going to the All-Star game in a couple weeks.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, I'm watching my own clips, right? I can't not watch. Of course, I watch my goals, watch my assists.
You watched
So now,
those ones a few times back too. You
yeah,
replayed them and
a couple of
everything.
times. So now like 20 minutes has gone by. I should really get back to work. But I click over to the worst actions. Of course, the best actions like doesn't load somehow. So of course
Yeah.
I look at the worst actions,
Yeah.
and the first worst action I shot it into a guy's shin pads. All right, that's not that bad.
No.
The next one was brutal. I don't even remember I did this.
Wait, was it
Cro-
college? College or juniors?
this is in college. The cross ice pass. We're
Oof.
playing against Clarkson, and I stepped up like fishing. Like I don't know if anybody knows that hockey term fishing. It's basically when you reach with your stick.
Hmm.
And as my college coach would say, I caught nothing. This guy danced me. He goes in on a 2-on-1. Thank God he missed the net. But that was my fishing tournament.
Were you were you flat-footed when you went
I
fishing?
don't know what I was thinking. I was kind of gapping up right at the guy,
Mhm.
and I didn't even remember I did this. But I don't know. It wasn't my best. It wasn't my best performance, and it reminded me of a story that they used to tell. This is from a class above me. So they graduated a
Mhm.
year a year before I did. Their freshman year, our coach printed out hunting license and fishing licenses and put them in their stall.
No way.
Yes, so that after a game, he would put up like if you were a fisherman today or a hunter today, and you walk in the room, be like, "Damn, like I was a fisherman." Be like, "Yeah, I was a hunter. Like I played good."
Was it like the next day after the game? Like
Yes,
he would
yes,
come in for like video or something, and you would have it hanging in your stall?
yeah. You'd either have the hunter's license if you like played a hard nosed game, or you'd have the fishing license.
No way.
So basically, anyway, to wrap up that little instat bit, I was a fisherman that day. I would have, if I was a class earlier, had the fishing license staring me down when I walked back into the rink.
So would you say, did you watch all like whatever 7 or 8 of your bad clips that you had?
Yeah, yeah.
Was that your worst one?
I don't know. A couple of them were minuses that were just like I probably was the primary defenseman in that corner.
Right.
But I wouldn't say if I look back at like my career,
Hmm.
I wouldn't say that those were like my biggest mistakes. So it is pretty objective. And like hits and stuff like that they count because they're not using artificial intelligence. It's pretty objective.
Yeah. So what
Subjective,
why
sorry.
would why is the sell that they don't use artificial intelligence? Like, do you know why? Like, I don't get why that would be a sell over not.
I
Is it
think
just because it has the human aspect to it?
yes, I think it's the human aspect. It's hard for I don't know, like they do a very, very good job of coding like offensive chances for and like turnovers to rushes and neutral zone counters. Like I
Hmm.
think that that's pretty hard to like do online if you were using artificial intelligence because like how the game flows.
Right.
So like being able to clip things like counter rushes and PP breakouts, like it's easier to watch.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a nice tool, though. I'm sure for coaches too. In terms, because does it cut clips for you and stuff like that too?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Post
it
game, I'll send you a big review.
saves a lot of time, I'm sure.
Oh, 100%.
Right, because like going through a game, I can't even imagine going through a game every weekend and having to cut clips and stuff and find plays and do all that. That would just be a pain.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I think that
Are
that's
you
it.
you good? Did you have a little? You had a little audio issue there.
Yeah, I don't know what is going on with my thing
Okay.
right now, but I think we're all fine.
All right. Hey, we'll keep it rolling, baby. We just roll with the punches over here on the No One Told Me Hockey Podcast. We go with the flow. Fletcher's having a little iPad trouble over here. It doesn't matter, though. We're going to keep going. So I wanted to get into something with you. You told me on the phone the other night. We talk quite often. We probably talk too much on the phone, actually. But you told me on the phone the other day that at one point you were a vegan.
Yes.
I saved it for the podcast. I need to get into this. So give me the rundown on how you became a vegan, what made you do it.
So I think this came up because we were talking about what we were cooking for dinner.
Right.
And I think that's how it had originally came up. And the reasoning behind it. So there's actually, and a lot of people do it because of whether it be protection for the animals or something to that effect. But the reason that I did it was actually so my uncle, my dad's brother, had kidney cancer,
Okay.
and he was looking for everything to try to like turn it around, like anything, whether it be diets, certain medicines. He's actually a neurologist at the Mayo Clinic. So
Oh
he's
wow.
yeah, he's a doctor himself. So he was doing a
Mhm.
lot of research. Actually came across a book called How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. It's
Mhm.
basically a book talking about how uh, certain meats and certain things that we eat are basically like cancer causing carcinogens essentially.
Mhm.
So what he did was he actually switched his whole diet to plant based, and his cancer actually like shrunk. I don't know the terminology, and I'm sure somebody out there who's listening is going to be a doctor or something and be like that's impossible. But anyway, he had relayed to us to read the book. So I'm a big reader. He sent me the book.
Mhm.
Um, I read the book and I said, hey, like I'm gonna try this for a little bit. So I did. I probably was at 9 months probably. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So
Was it tough to transition from like eating meat and stuff? Because I mean, for me, I eat meat at least 2 meals a day, and then I eat eggs in the morning. So was that a tough transition to go from eating meat every day to transitioning into that like vegetarian vegan lifestyle?
so I kind of faded it at first. Like I would only do like a couple meals, and then probably about 2 or 3 weeks in, I was full on. And their school did a great job of offering us like different options.
Mhm.
It was always like a vegan center, and the reason that I ended up switching out of it was because this 9 months was the COVID year, my junior year, where we weren't playing games.
Mhm.
So every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I had options over what I was going to eat.
Mhm.
And then I realized, like, okay, as we start playing again, I'm going to switch out of this because it's going to be impossible to get a vegan meal on a Friday night when we're in just upstate New York at playing Clarkson or something like that.
You're gonna be eating broccoli with like a cheese stick. Or you
Yeah,
can't even eat cheese, a
can't eat cheese.
breadstick, a
Can't eat cheese.
breadstick.
Yeah, so ended up fading out of it, but I don't know. I felt pretty good. Like I didn't mind it. Either way, it wasn't like a earth shattering thing that I did.
Did you notice anything in terms of like your body shifting, like a benefit? Did you see any benefits out of it? Or was it
Um,
kind of hard to tell because you're just
it is hard to tell, and I don't know the Netflix. Have you ever watched Game Changers on Netflix?
no.
That's a pro vegan documentary, and just as there's pro vegan stuff, there's pro carnivore stuff and all the other diets as
Hmm.
well. But that documentary does a good job of like showing how high performance athletes can be benefited by it,
Okay.
but at the same time, like there's stuff that can be argued on the other side.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna say I thought I've seen things like opposite of that too, kind of disproving why being a vegan as a
yeah,
high performing athlete is a bad thing too. I don't know the reasoning behind it, but I do remember seeing something. So yeah, I'm sure there's pros and cons to both of them. It kind of just I bet you it really depends on like kind of the sport you're in too, I would imagine.
yeah, I think there was pros and I mean, I don't know. I think about my own experience a little bit. I didn't really feel any different.
Hmm.
I never did any of those blood tests that they say would come back clear or something like that if you are on it.
Yeah.
That would have been something interesting. But to be honest, I don't. I mean, I felt fine. I lost weight, but I feel like
Hmm.
that's normal when you're not eating as much meat or cheese or dairy.
Did you ever like in the cafeteria or something like walk past like a piece of chicken and you're like, oh, I'd kill
You
for
know what?
that
You know
right
what it
now.
was.
Like a good sandwich or something. Like
You know
there's
what it was for me at first. What it was cheese. Like
Mhm.
that's like pretty addicting. And then the second thing was ice cream. Uh,
Oh,
actually, like
yeah.
what's actually like, kind of interesting about this is I took a class called cognitive neuroscience at Union. It's like one of the harder psych courses,
Mhm.
and they were saying the same. I mean, I'm going to butcher this for whatever doctors out there listening. The
We got a
same,
lot of
like,
online doctors listening right
yeah,
now. They're
all
gonna
the people
come
on
for
Reddit,
us.
all the people on Reddit, the
Don't get me
same
going.
cortex that's activated like when you do drugs, some dopamine cortex or like
Uh-huh.
path or something. It's the same thing that's activated when you eat cheese, which is like why you like keep wanting cheese. Like you
Same
eat,
thing. That's like the same thing with sugar almost too, right?
yeah,
Is
yeah,
that similar thing?
yeah. And it's like when you see, like, if I showed you like a nice juicy cheese pizza, you'd kind of be like, oh, that looks good.
Dude,
So it's the same type of,
I love cheese. Like
yeah,
I think it's one of the best like additions to any meal. There's a little cheese sprinkled on top.
yeah.
You
So anyway,
cannot beat
the
cheese.
cheese at first was tough. The dairy
Okay.
was okay. I don't mind. I don't eat a lot of chicken, as Nick Saban would say. I think Nick Saban said chicken is a nervous bird. Oh, it was Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh. That's who it
He would say that. He would
was.
say that. I mean, he's not wrong by that statement. If you're gonna eat something, I mean, eat something that it's got a little viciousness to him, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. I think it was Jim. I think it was Jim Harbaugh. He said, "My players don't eat chicken. It's a nervous bird."
He doesn't allow it in their cafeteria at all. He just cuts it out. What a
I love it.
savage. What a
I love
savage.
it.
All right, so I wanted to get into this with you. We talked a little bit about your past and your playing experience on episode 1, kind of where you played and stuff, and you ended up playing at Omaha for your U16s. That's correct, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and from there you earned a Division 1 commitment out of U16.
Yes, actually a little bit before. So
Oh, okay, I
yeah,
didn't know that.
my freshman and sophomore year, I decided to stay home. Played for
Mhm.
North Broward Prep School, which is a South Florida prep school. And the best thing about it was we had access to the ice as early as you wanted to in the morning.
Mhm.
And it was our first period class of the day. It was hockey. So I used to get on the ice like as early as like 6, and I
Okay.
wouldn't be done till like 9:35. So I developed a ton that year. Had amazing coaches,
Oh,
um,
wow.
all former NHL players, which was awesome. And I was actually that sophomore year was selected in all the drafts, and then got my commitment over the summer after a USA festival, going
Oh,
into U16.
oh, I didn't realize that. I thought you got your commitment out of Omaha, so I was gonna take that and go through your recruiting process from Omaha. But so the school you went to, what teams would you play? Were you playing mainly Florida teams, or were you going up to play like the East Coast prep schools, a little bit of both?
It was a little bit of both, but we didn't play prep schools. We played like a AAA schedule in Florida, which at the time was only the Junior Panthers and the Alliance. Like there wasn't much going on.
Hmm.
But I was also 14. I was a freshman playing with 18-year-olds, which was huge, I think, for development.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
Anyways, I was playing a lot of ice time, a lot of situations like we kind of talked about last pod.
Hmm.
And then when it came time for that USA festival, where it's like, okay, now you're going to go up against your age group, I think that that benefited me a ton. Brace just, I was growing a lot, like at the
Right.
time. So I don't know, it kind of
So,
was nice.
so you had your varsity team, correct?
Yeah.
That's what you were on. You were on your varsity team,
Yeah.
and then so because you were playing a AAA schedule, you were playing U18 teams.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then yeah, that would be huge playing against U18 players, especially because like Florida, I don't know how the AAA was at that time, but they're still older. You know, they're still more developed. They're quicker. They probably make plays better, and it's still AAA. So like it definitely is challenging you at 14 years old
Yeah.
to compete with older kids, which I'm sure helped a ton.
What was interesting was like, so at the end of that second year, we qualified for the Southeast Regional to go to nationals for AAA.
Mm.
And one of the teams, I think this may have been my freshman year actually, one of the teams that we played in that Southeast Regional was TPH Thunder U18 AAA. Like this was a legit U18 AAA team.
Right,
And
right.
they beat us like 8 or 10 to nothing. But I remember being in that game and being like, wow, like these are U18 AAA. I think there was a couple kids committed to Alabama Huntsville on the team at the time.
Mhm.
And here I am, like a 14-year-old, just trying to like compete, and our team got blown out of the water. But I remember thinking like, wow, like I'm playing against better competition. Like I'm young. Like maybe this could benefit me, and it turned out benefiting me. What about you? Now, do you at this time? So that U16 time, you were playing Team Illinois.
Yeah, so my first year I played double A because so back then, right, they only had U16. They didn't have U15 and U16 like they do now.
Okay.
So, and I'm a 97, so us in the 96 is my first year. We're competing for all the same spots.
Okay.
And the mission, their team was already picked. And then all the other teams pretty much just took 96s. Besides, I think between like CYA, Team Illinois, and Fury, I would say like under 10 97s got picked that year, minus Mission. Besides Mission, because they had a bunch of 97s because they were good, like
Okay.
their 97 age group. But so I ended up playing double A that year. And then my second year, I made Team Illinois and I played there. And we weren't very good at the beginning of the year because we were all pretty much double A kids, besides our 98s, I think were the only triple A kids. And I swear, like halfway through the year, some is I think this is what kind of took us to the next level when we really started to win games is our coach started making us do 60-second drills for every goal that we got scored against on the weekend. And we would play like sometimes like 4 or 5 games. So we were doing like 12, 13, 60-second drills. But
Can you explain what a 60
okay.
second drill is?
Because yeah, I guess some people might call it something else. So it's goal line, you start the goal line, you go from the goal line, blue line back,
Okay.
red line back, far blue line back, goal line back.
Okay.
So we were doing like sometimes like 13, 14 of those.
Oh,
And but it got us in such good shape.
yeah.
And from there, I don't know, we just started winning games after that. And we ended up going to the finals in state that year. Like CYA, I think was ranked like third in the country or like third or fifth. And we beat them. And then we had to play Mission in the state finals and we lost. But yeah, so I played U16 from there. But so then I want to get into so after that year, so how did you get in contact with Union? What was that process like of like give me the commitment process that you went through once you got in contact with them and stuff or how you got in contact with them?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing that I want to highlight that I think is really important to aim for if you're a youth hockey player right now is I think that USA Hockey does a really good job of hosting those Select 15, Select 16, and Select 17 festivals.
Mhm.
Now, depending on the region that you're from,
You're talking like the national camp, right?
yes, the
Okay.
national.
Right.
So to get to the national camp, you need to first pass a state camp
Mhm.
and then a regional camp and then the national camp. So if you can aim to be at your best come those tryouts, now, yes, there is politics involved, but if you're a very good player and you've worked your hardest, right, you're going to be in a good position to potentially make it. And I think that aiming to be at one of those is very important
Mm-hmm.
because every college is there. And as you go up, they have the Halinka selections, the Five Nations selections. And it does a good job. If you look at the teams that are put together there, I don't know, I think Team Black, Team Green, and Team Blue were the 3 years, the teams that I was on.
Mm-hmm.
Like 80% of each team ended up playing Division One. So, anyway, and I'm going to get into why that's important.
Mm-hmm.
After my Select 15 festival, so the youngest one,
Mm-hmm.
um, Union had saw me there, and same with Penn State had saw me there. And Vince, actually, who we shouted out last podcast, had relationships with both of those coaches at the time. Um, and he had actually put me in contact with them after they had heard from him, kind of like a little bit of a triangle.
Yeah.
And I had visited Penn State and Union one on a Thursday, one on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my goals as a kid, and everybody always talk about setting goals, but I had the goal of hopefully playing in the ECAC. And at the
Mm-hmm.
time, this is 2016, Union had won the national championship in 2014. So it was like a no brainer. Like, this is the coolest thing in the world. You have the
Right. Right.
post national championship team um, essentially talking to you. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I toured there, and Coach Bennett, who I have nothing but highest words to talk about him. He's the most amazing man. Impacted me so much and shaped me into the person I am today. Forever grateful. I had such a great conversation with him and my dad. And now it's over. It's crazy. 2023. This goes back like 8 years. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
right. It's so crazy when you look back on like even like I look back to like when I started juniors, and
Yeah,
that was going on almost 9 years now, which is
yeah.
blows my mind because it feels like it was yesterday.
It really does. I mean, I'm just sitting telling that story. Like, I can't. Well, first of all, I can't reiterate how great of a Coach Bennett was to me,
Hmm.
and to every an amazing man. But regardless, the conversation that he took so much time out of his day and spoke with me and my dad just gave us a sense of comfort. And I
Yeah.
think that when you're looking for a school, like being comfortable with the coach and having that sense of security, where it's like anything, whether it be hockey or family or personal life related, to be able to go talk to that coach is
Hmm.
so important. So it ended up working out, and was committed at a young age, kind of gave me a little bit of solidarity moving forward as I navigated juniors. And
Yeah. So did they with juniors, because you got drafted in the different leagues and stuff, but did they guide you in any way on kind of the route they wanted you to take for development? How did that work?
yeah, a little bit. So at the time, right, you got to think about this. I was very young. Like, I'm
Mhm.
just finishing my sophomore year of high school. And I think this is actually before. This is before the rule. I think it's junior year August now. I don't know what the rule is.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so whatever the rule is, I think this is prior to that.
In
Uh,
terms of like what when they can talk or when you can get committed?
yes, yes.
Okay, yeah.
So they had guided me. So I'd already chose to go to Omaha U16, and he had been in contact with my coach there a little bit when we started. They would come out and watch my games, basically checking on me. I was in a good spot, Midwest. That's where all the junior leagues were too.
Mhm.
So they would basically make their rounds and see me. And then after that, I tried for Bloomington in the USHL, whose head coach actually just won the gold with Canada. Dennis Williams was the coach of Bloomington.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was really cool to be able to learn from him for a little bit. Got cut, ended up in Springfield.
Mhm.
Um, and then from Springfield on, I was there, and Union was okay with that because I was developing and in a spot to succeed.
So with Springfield, were you drafted there, or because Bloomington, for people who don't know who, like Bloomington and Springfield, Illinois, are probably about like 45 minutes away from each other. They're not very far. One's Bloomington's USHL, Springfield's in the NAHL. So were you protected by Springfield or anything like that, or was it just because it was close?
I was drafted by Springfield. I feel bad looking back on it. I remember getting that. I mean, I'm a young, like, I'm a hotshot 16-year-old. Like, I'm not going to go play in the null. And
Right.
I remember they texted me like, "Hey Fletch, like we drafted you," and I responded like, "Great, like thanks so much, like we'll keep in touch." Like I didn't really give it that much interest, and
Yeah.
then Bloomington had said like as I was getting cut, like, "Hey, we're gonna send you to Springfield,"
Hmm.
and ended up in Springfield, and 2 years met you there, and
Yeah.
now here we are.
Okay, that's interesting. So, and then Union was fine with that because you were playing, you played decent minutes there. You were still developing, playing against, kids who were committed, pretty good competition and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say that early on, I actually had a conversation with my union coaches at Union
Hmm.
about that getting cut from USHL time. I mean, I was still so young, and they had said something to the effect of like, "We thought that you were going to end up in U16 after that," as in because I got scratched 6 out of the first 12 games in Springfield.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I was getting like
Oh,
worried. I was like, "Man, what is going on?" Like
yeah.
the break, and then I ended up getting fitting in the lineup. I played 48 straight games, and then
Oh,
after that was fine.
so were you feeling like, and so you go down from the USHL to the NA, and then you get scratched pretty much half of the
Yeah,
first games that you're there for. Now, are you getting nervous, like feeling the pressure from Union, even though they're not saying anything to you? Are
yeah,
you
yeah,
feeling it? Like, are you building that pressure up in you? Like, holy crap, what am I doing?
yes, absolutely. I think what goes overlooked, and I want to hear your thoughts on this after I say it, is once you are committed to a college, right? It gives you that sense of solidarity, as in like this is where I'm going to end up.
Hmm.
But at the same time, you're also thinking to yourself a little bit like, man, they're watching everything now. Like they're checking the stats,
Right.
which like they may or may not have been. I haven't been on that side of a Division One
Hmm.
assistant or a Division One head coach. I don't know how much they're checking, and it's probably
Hmm.
dependent on the ages and when you're coming in.
Hmm.
But I was very like, oh man, like what are they thinking? Like I'm out of the lineup. Like what's going on? But ended up finding some consistency.
Well, so that's interesting because from my side of things, right? So you have this Division One commitment, and you're worried about that just one person, right? Is
Yeah,
or just these set of coaches is watching every move you make. And then from my side of things, like I'm not committed and I'm playing games and I'm still worrying about those same things. But from now I'm thinking about, oh shoot, what are all 62 Division One teams thinking?
yep,
You know what I mean? So we're still worried about the same thing, but just about who's watching it, if you know what I mean. You're worried about it from a one school standpoint, whereas like I'm looking at it as like trying to get a commitment. So it's like I'm worried about it from like 62 teams, like who's watching, what games are they watching, what did they see? Like, did they turn it on and they watched the one turnover where I get scored on and you know what I mean, or give up a breakaway and stuff like that. So that's interesting.
I used to get so nervous when they told me or they just showed up at one of our games. Like you'd see,
Hmm.
there's my union assistant or there's my union head coach. Who are now I'm very close with all of them.
Yeah.
We
But
laugh. Back
back
then
then
you
you had
were.
like limited conversations in a
Yes,
sense.
and we played a game, you probably remember this game, maybe not. We played Cooley Region Chill, 2 PM on a Sunday. So this is Cooley, Wisconsin, La Crosse, Wisconsin,
Lacrosse.
which
Yeah.
is there's nothing there essentially.
No. It's
Um,
Wisconsin.
and it's 2 PM on a Sunday afternoon, and one of my coaches is there,
Did
and
he
there was
text you? Did he text you that he was
yes,
coming?
yes,
Okay.
I knew that they were gonna be there. And there was 3 fights in the first 5 minutes of the game. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what?" This guy probably thinks this is crazy, like, what is going on?
Hey,
So
you go up to all the boys on the bench, you're like, "Hey, my coach is here, so if you wanna cool it down and just play hockey, you guys are making this league look like a gong show out here.
yeah, so that's
Let's reel it in."
a great story. That I remember that so vividly, it's crazy, it's been so long since then, so, it's good times.
That is good times. Yeah, I remember like so for me playing, I always put so much pressure on myself of like what scouts are in the building, who's watching that night. Like if I didn't have a good game or like I went like -2 or
Yeah.
whatever, I'd be so in my head about like these coaches and what they were watching and how they were perceiving me and stuff that it negatively affected my play so much. Like I couldn't even have fun out there because I was so worried about every little play. Did you go through the same thing?
Yeah, I would say that there's definitely a huge worry for that. I think that's amongst all
Mhm.
ages where it starts to get more and more high up and you start to think about like what's going to come next for me if
Yeah.
if this mistake happens. Now what would you say is the best, what advice would you give
I know, I was
to deal
just
with that?
thinking that I think in that age range right there between like, U16 AAA to then playing juniors, and then if you're maybe like a high-end Division 1 player like drafted, it's all the same situation. Um, I don't know, that's a really tough question. I think looking back now, it's so easy to talk about and be like, oh, you need to do this or do that. Or like towards the end of my college career, it was way easier just to kind of enjoy it and be in the moment because I knew, one, it's more of a team game in college, and two, it was my last whatever 5 games of my career, so I'm gonna try to soak it all in. But when you're game 40 in the null, and you're stressing out and it's your last year and you're trying to get a college commitment, you are so deep in your head, it's not even funny. I don't know, do you have any advice for that? Because it's almost like you just have to slow it down and really put in perspective of what you're actually doing. At the end of the day, it's just a game, and at the end of the day, it's supposed to be fun, even though it's not. It might not seem like it's that fun at that time, and it might feel like a job. But I really think the most important thing to do is take a step back and try to see it from a different point of view than your point of view almost.
I would also say, like, when it comes to, and I'm thinking about this now because of a story that I'll get into, is trust your skill set, right? Like you could be in your mind a lot during a game. Like sometimes you're in your mind so much that you're kind of like not really present.
Mhm.
But
Totally.
if you're involved in the game and you're practicing your habits off the ice and you're practicing your habits in practice, right? You can remind yourself to trust your skill set. And I had a conversation with a player who was in Springfield with us.
Mhm.
It was probably toward the end of my second year. So, Jack, you may not have been there, but he still hadn't received any looks from really any colleges. And he was getting ready to go to the North American League Top Prospects Tournament.
Uh-huh.
We were in line at a drive through, and he said, yeah, like, I don't know, like, I'm getting a little upset about this type of thing, like, not getting a lot of looks. And I said, look, I said, just trust yourself, man. Like, you're a good player. Like, go
Mhm.
out there and, like, have fun. First of all, like you said, take it all in, but
Yeah.
trust your skill set. Like you are a good player, and deep down, like if you're playing at the North American League, or if you're playing in the USHL, or even high level U16,
Mhm.
like, you know you're a good player deep down, right? But
Mhm.
it's the mumbo jumbo that everybody gets caught up in, and
Yeah.
he was at the time too. And he had 2 goals in the first game at the Null Prospects tournament,
Oh, really?
and ended up with like 6 Division 1 offers and was a Division 1 captain. So
Yeah, yeah. I think one thing too, like looking back now, and I kind of realized it in like college and like my junior year, maybe sophomore year, is if you're struggling to kind of have that confidence or you're worried about how you're playing and stuff, you have to simplify everything down your
yeah,
game as much as you can, and you have to throw points out the window. You have to throw plus minus out the window. Like you my biggest thing for when I was like trying to reset and stuff was focusing on my body positioning and then my effort. Like
yeah,
making sure that if if the puck goes to the point and I have my guy in the corner, like I'm doing everything I can to box him out, like hyper focused on like little details like that. And it almost kind of distracts you from all those things that really don't matter at the end of the day, like your plus minus and your points. I mean, they matter, but if you're playing a consistent game, they don't matter in a sense.
I
So I think you got to simplify your game as much as you can if you're struggling with that type of confidence thing.
I think that at a certain degree, right? So we're talking about right now where you got scouts, the pressure of scouts. And I think one thing that kind of will accelerate the worries in a sense is like when you make a mistake on the ice.
100%.
So
Even like a little mistake, like if you like, I don't know, trip on your foot one time or something,
yeah.
your confidence can just like take a hit.
So we talked a little bit, you started to touch on a little bit of like how to deal with those mistakes. One
Hmm.
of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from someone who played at Harvard, played AHL for the Wilkes-Barre Penguins afterward for a long time. And we were talking about, right, how do I deal with mistakes, right? It's going to happen. And the
Hmm.
advice he gave me said say he got walked in front of thousands of fans, which happens to everybody, right? He said he would go back to the bench and he would grab the water and he would put the water in his mouth and he would swish it around and he'd spit it out. And he was getting the taste of the bad shift out of his mouth.
Right.
And it was like,
It's kind of like a yoga practice in a sense, like
yeah,
a mind calming, like mental clarity thing. Like you're getting rid of that like bad energy or whatever that's in your body.
yeah, like a physical cue to like get you back in the game. I think
Yeah.
I used to get the taste out of your mouth for a long time with the water bottle. Did you
Hmm.
use any sort of reset after a mistake?
Yeah, so I'm not like on the bench and stuff. I'd really try not because I had a bad problem with this in juniors and stuff, and it did affect me a little bit. Was my body language was really bad in terms of if a coach like tried to tell me something, or and especially if I didn't agree with them or something, my body language was not very good. So, or if I did something wrong, my body language would be really bad. So I really just tried to I just breathe it out. And one thing that really helped me too was on the bench and stuff, being into the game. Like I'm always made sure like bench energy, I think is huge for teams and it can really change like your momentum in a game if everyone on your team on the bench is into it and reacting to plays and stuff. So one thing, especially in college, as I was transitioning like to be a captain and stuff, was making sure I was one of the most positive guys, loudest guys on the bench, and being really into it, watching the game, watching what players are doing and stuff. And that kind of kept my mind off of maybe my mistakes and stuff and got me just really into the game and more of in like a competitive mindset
I
because you're
love
just
that.
so dialed into it.
I love that. I had my freshman year, we had a sergeant. I think he was an ex-Marine. His,
Badasses,
oh
badasses,
yeah,
by the way.
his wife. So his wife worked at Union at the time, or went to Union. I don't remember, but somehow he was connected with the hockey team, and he gave us a speech, and he was talking about a time that he was in a firefight, and it was like the 6 or 7 of them in the platoon. And it was going back and forth, and he remembers he was trying his best, his very best, to just stay calm and collected, right, and to the point. But deep down, right, he was like terrified. And
Right.
then later on in months to come, one of his platoon members said to him, like, man, like the only reason that I like stayed calm was because you were so calm. And
Mm-hmm.
he looked at him and goes, well, the only reason I stayed calm was because you were calm.
Yeah.
So, and he was telling us this story, and we were thinking about it on the bench, like later on, a couple of us were talking, we're like, hey, like, it just shows like how much like body language and what you say matters. It's not
Mm-hmm.
that you can fake it till you make it, but to
Yeah.
an extent, right? If you're nervous, but you're active and you're vocal and you're communicating, whether that be in practice or in a game, I think that can go a long way with performance.
Oh, absolutely. And like one thing too, like if you're in practice and stuff, and it's sometimes it's really hard in practice to get guys to like talk and stuff. It gets really actually annoying when you're trying to like be vocal and stuff and bring the energy up and guys just aren't buying into it. That can be really frustrating, but that's besides the point. But when everyone kind of buys into that and there's good energy and stuff, like you see it with the performance, it totally picks up like a practice, like everything gets crisper, guys play harder, like it just totally can change the energy in a game or on the ice for practice and stuff. Like it rubs off on guys too. If if you can get a couple guys to buy into that and then more and more start to hop on board and it can totally change, a game or momentum.
Absolutely. They say, I think one of the cool quote I heard over time was like, a good practice is a loud practice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's loud not only by like the physical noise of passing and shooting and stuff, but by communication too. Now, when you talk about preparing for a good practice, right, we talk about daily routines. Did you
Mm-hmm.
have a pre-practice routine? And if you didn't, do you think you would have? Like, what do you recommend for a pre-practice? Or and we can get into game routines too.
Well, it depends because if we're talking college, right, it's such a hectic day.
Yeah,
Like you're running around all day and sometimes your class can butt up right next to practice and stuff.
yeah,
So sometimes I would have 2 o'clock classes, it would go to 2:50 and then we'd have practice at 3. So no
yeah.
routine there, obviously. You just have to hustle onto the ice and get out there and kind of just join practice. But one thing I really like to do before practice is I wasn't a big stretcher like off ice or like ride the bike or anything. I just never really got into that. But I like getting out there early and I would try to work on, one part of my game. And I would take it by steps too. Like I would do it mentally first, and then I would do it with no puck, and then I would do it with a puck type thing. So to kind of get me just mentally focused, and then you get your hands under you, and then you get your feet under you, and then you get your hands under you.
I
I
like
thought that really worked for me is like kind of take it step by step and build yourself from like your mental game to your feet to your hands, and then you're kind of warm by then, and then practice was starting. So that's kind of what I try to do at at the beginning of practices to get me kind of dialed in.
I like that. One thing we had toyed with a little bit at school was they would give the practice plan to now this was they'd give the practice plan to us pretty early in the day. So
Mm-hmm.
we would be able to like kind of visualize the practice a little bit. And I'm sure some guys didn't even look at it. But for
Yeah.
me, it was pretty helpful, right? Like I saw what drills we were gonna do, and I would try to
Mhm.
go through it in my head. But like you said, right, you're in class, you're in and out, so having a pre-practice routine was pretty tough.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of liked going with the flow. Like even on game days, I was kind of like lackadaisical. But I did play with one kid who is currently at St. Cloud. He's actually up for the Hobie Baker Award
Oh,
right now.
wow.
He's
Wow.
got 22 points in 20 games as a D. And
What?
talk about talk about routines.
Yeah.
This guy, if it was a game day, like you have the 90-minute clock that starts, at
Mhm.
any minute he was in the exact same spot at the exact same time, and it worked for him. So there's no, I don't think
Yeah.
it's one size fits all for any routine.
I kind of so for game day routines, so when I was playing juniors, like I had one and I really stuck to it, and if I got off of it, it really kind of threw me off, or like I got me really nervous, or like my legs didn't feel right and stuff. One of the big things about my pregame routine was the bathroom break. Like after warm-ups, like after your off ice warm-ups, like if I did not go to the bathroom, I was so mentally thrown off that I was gonna have the worst stomach ache of my entire life on the ice. I couldn't even focus. Like, so that was my big thing, and still in college too. Like, I had to go to the bathroom, or else it was bad news coming. But I think with routines, for some guys, it really works. For me, it kind of was a balance. Like, I had a few things in college that I would do, but they were like, if it didn't happen, I didn't really care at that point. But in juniors, yeah, I was so hung up on them. And it got to a point where I was like, all right, I need to chill.
I had a pretty serious one in college for a little bit early on, right? I'm trying to like
Mhm.
establish myself in the lineup, and then it was probably this is January of my freshman year, so I hadn't really played that much up to that part. I played 2 games prior to Christmas break, and then played 16 in the back half. But this is
Mhm.
like one of the first or second games in the second half of the season, and I was scratched in the like the day before, like I was scratched for the game.
Yeah.
And so the next morning, like I got on the ice with the goalies, like shot on the backup goalies and worked out. We bagged ourselves. Like we're not playing at nighttime.
Yeah. Yeah.
And afterward I rewarded myself. Like I had a huge burrito. I'm talking like one of the biggest wraps I've ever had. It's chicken, beans, rice, lettuce, everything.
From
Spicy.
Chipotle?
No, it
Chipotle?
was from
Oh,
school. We used to be able to make these monster wraps.
unreal.
You know what I remember too is I remember I walked right up to the soda machine and I was like, I don't really drink soda, but I'm crushing a Dr. Pepper. So I
Today's
crushed
the day.
so I crushed this Dr. Pepper. Now, meanwhile, and I think you can see where this story's going.
Yep, yep, I know.
I
Something's
get
gonna happen.
I get a phone call now. It's 4:17. The bus leaves at like 4:40 for the game.
Yeah.
It's coach. And
You're like, oh you're like, oh shit.
he's like, Fletch, you're in so and so. I don't want to name him, is sick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, like sounds good. I'll be on the bus. And I hang up the phone. Like, wait, the conversation's over.
Yeah.
And I look at my roommates. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm in. And they're like, oh my God, like get dressed. Like you put your suit on.
You're
And
like, oh my god, I just crushed a Dr. Pepper and a burrito like
so
2 hours ago.
my whole day's routine was done. I was like, I gotta play this game. It was the Mayor's Cup as the champion, like playing for a trophy.
Yeah.
And we ended up playing, we won the game. And I actually used that as like a reminder, as like, hey, like you don't need to prepare to this extent every single time. Like it was a reminder, like you accomplished this thing. So I
Right.
think it's a great story. One of my favorite stories.
You debunked your pregame
Yes.
rituals. Well, and like you said an interesting thing right there. Like you said like about preparing for the game. Like you were still prepared for the game in terms of like, your skill wise and like what the systems are and like who you're playing and what systems they run and stuff. Like you were prepared in that sense, but like you don't need to over pressure yourself into having this insane routine that if you don't follow that your game's going to be terrible,
Yeah. Like
right?
trust your skills. That's kind of what we
Yeah.
talked about earlier, right?
Yeah.
Like like you never know what's going to happen. That's like the perfect example. Right? You
Hmm.
never know what's going to happen, but you rely on trusting your skills. I think it can go a long way.
That's awesome. I never experienced, actually, one time in juniors, this is kind of messed up. It's not that messed up, but it was annoying at the time. So we were playing Wenatchee and we were in Wenatchee playing, and the coach never posted like the lineup. I don't know how I somehow was getting ready and I didn't know if I was playing or not. And I don't know if he told the other kids that they weren't playing, because they usually put up the sheet and stuff.
Yeah.
Never, I didn't ever saw a sheet. So I was getting ready, and the whole time I was warming up, I was like, all right, we have 7D. Like, I don't know if I'm playing or not. So I was just like, I never heard anything. So I was getting ready. And then we warm up, and I get in the locker room. He goes, yeah, you're not playing tonight. I'm like, dude, you should have just told me like 2 hours ago before I was stressing out about this game.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll do it. That the post warm up scratch. I feel like I've seen that one way too often at this point.
Yeah, it's always like an awkward tension in the locker room too, because you have two guys getting ready for the same position. It's like,
Yeah.
who is playing? And then it throws up off the whole warm up, because now you got an extra guy out there floating around trying to get reps in. It's
Yeah.
really just it's not good for the chemistry out there.
No. No. I love it though. I love it. I think you think that's good for the hockey talk for today?
Yeah, I think we hop out of the hockey talk, because I got something I want to get into real quick. And it is so I go to this gym called Vasa. It could be Vasa. I'm not sure, but it's $10.99 a month. So you already understand the type of person that's there. I got a problem with this. So they have a sauna there and they have a steam room. I got two things about this actually. I just thought of another one. So I go there. I usually go in the morning, but this time, earlier this week, I had to go in the afternoon. So I went around 6 o'clock. Terrible time to go. I knew it was going to be packed like sardines. So I go there, and of course it is. And I finish working out, and I'm like, all right, I love going into the sauna. Like, it's one of my favorite things. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go check it out. And I already knew before I went in there. I just do like a little look, pop my head in around the corner just to see what it looked like. People in there, so they have 2 rows usually in the sauna,
Yep.
packed, shoulder to shoulder, no joke. They were touching shoulders on both levels.
Oh, like a
What
sardine.
is wrong with you? Why are you in there if there's that many people?
I don't that oh
It might be one of the
uh,
grossest things I've ever seen, because, like, I mean, I sweat a decent amount in there. Imagine if I'm sitting top deck and I'm just sweating on this guy's back.
you know what I appreciate though? I appreciate that you did the check, right? You whenever you're
Oh
going
yeah,
in the sauna, whenever you're going into the steam room, right?
yeah.
Give it a little check,
You
right?
got a shoulder check. Hey, you got a shoulder check
Gotta
going
show check,
back.
see what's going on in there because we used to use I used the steam room a ton
Hmm.
in college. They had one not on campus but at a local gym. A couple of us would go.
Yeah,
And it would get so steamy in there that you couldn't see your hand in front of you.
yeah.
And it would calm down and it would clear up. But to a certain extent, right, when it gets that steamy, you don't know who's coming in. Like you can't see that door open.
I went into the steam room instead, and I couldn't see a
You can't
thing.
see a
I didn't
thing.
know where to sit.
So there would be times where, first of all, I'm worried about the door getting stuck. Second of
Oh yeah.
all, I'm sitting there. There's 3 people when the steam starts. Goes shh starts.
Hmm.
That thing turns off. Now there's 7 people in the steam room. I'm like, where did these people come from?
Houdini just popped in.
I love it. I the only other thing, and this goes into out of steam room gym performance as well,
Yeah,
the outfits, right? I
I
get
was gonna bring that up.
you're in a public gym, right?
Dude.
I don't need you bare bum in the sauna or in the steam room. Let's keep the
No,
clothes on, maybe a swimsuit, maybe a pair of Lulu shorts, gym shorts, it doesn't matter. Maybe the shirt's off, maybe it's not. It doesn't matter.
depends.
But
You,
there's an extreme, right? It's got to be appropriate for the steam room or
yeah.
sauna. I also don't need you doing a full workout in the steam room or sauna.
Oh my
Got to
god.
jump rope, push up, sit up, sneakers in the steam room. I don't need that either.
You know what? It's fine if you're the only one in there. As soon as one other person comes in there, you stop all activities. You
Yes.
sit down and you act like a human. You don't do extracurricular activities in the sauna with other people in there. I got two things I want to bring up about the sauna. One, the noises people make is
Oh,
absurd in there. The heavy breathing. And then I was in the steam room. So, how your nostrils get like,
yes.
it kind of hurts. And these guys I'm not even going to make the noise, snorting so loud. It is disgusting.
I just think you just go sit there, be quiet, and you know what? Here's the other one. Do not stay in the steam room or the sauna for over an hour. Some people, I look at them, they look like they're dried up sponges because they've
Oh,
been
I know.
so long. I don't think they realize they're so thirsty that they're going to go drink all the water that they just sweated out right after.
I know.
But people will sit in there so long that they look like they're full on dying. I,
Yeah.
I don't need that. We're at LA Fitness, not
Or
there's no
or 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 there's these people who go in there for literally they'll pop in for 30 seconds and then they're out.
it'll
And
raise,
then
they'll
they're
raise the
like,
temperature of the body.
this guy, when I was in the steam room, he brings a full water bottle. He's in there for like 20 seconds and he's drenching himself in this water bottle. I'm like, dude, you've been in here for like 20 seconds. Like, just chill for a second.
I think that
And then there's a little faucet thing, like, the garden hose. He's right by it. He fills his water up. I'm sitting directly behind it, and it's shooting out off his water bottle, hitting me in the face. I'm like, you cannot be serious right now, dude. Have some awareness.
I think one of my favorite things, and this is still on the topic of gym talk, but it's entertaining to me, is right. We had mentioned last podcast I go to Orange Theory. The habit of going to Orange Theory started in college where we would do it as a team.
Mm,
But I do the early class in the morning, and there's a soft banter amongst the participants about how tired they are. Now,
yeah,
it is your decision to come to the gym in the morning.
yep,
I love the people that come to the class. They're awesome people, but I don't appreciate or need the soft, tired banter. I'm so
no,
tired. No, no, no. Yes, we're all
yeah,
tired. It's early in the
we,
morning. But the
eh,
banter, it's appropriate if it's to a certain degree. But
right.
when you're talking about how tired you are now for 12, 13, 14, 15 minutes prior to the workout,
It was prior to the workout, like they're talking about how tired they are.
yeah, because they make you at Orange Theory, you have to get there 15 minutes early for every class.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're like strict about that stuff too, aren't they?
Yeah, well, if you don't show up, they charge you $12.
Yeah. Okay.
Genius business model. It's genius.
It really is.
Also,
You're getting
I give a shout out to the Orange Theory people. That is a full blown cult, and it's a cult I'm a part of.
100%.
But I mean,
Do,
everybody, it's amazing.
I got a little problem with Orange Theory though. So on Instagram sometimes I'll see this. I don't know what it's called. If you I got to know if you've ever taken a picture with this thing. Have you know that board that they write on?
The brag board.
The brag board. If you do not tell me you have gone on the brag board.
I actually turned down the brag board. They ask you before like, do you
Let's
want
go.
to? Now I've been in the pictures because you got to stay like it's a class picture. I've been in the
Oh.
pictures, but they asked me at this new studio that I'm at because I've just moved here.
Mhm.
They had said, "Yo, it's your fifth class. Do you want a brag board for your fifth class?" I'm like, I've been doing this for years
How
with my
about
school.
fifth year? Hey, how
I've
about fifth
I've
year?
I've been doing this for years with my school. I know that those don't count, but most of them I'm bragging about my fifth class. On the other hand, a lady in one of my classes just had her 1,500th class. That is brag board material right there.
1,500.
1,500 classes. That's like 3 years of Orange Theory.
Holy
And the best
smokes.
part is she had said that she had 5 late cancels in 5 years. That is
That's
incredible.
it? That's it?
Yeah,
Dude, this girl's committed to her craft.
I respect it. I love it.
She's an Orange Theory vet. Now, okay, I got a question. So is it mainly what's the range of people there in terms, are you the only guy?
Uh, there's definitely a girl favored ratio, a girl to guy favored ratio, but honestly, there's a bigger range than you think. Like
Mhm.
any type of person is in there. Little misconception, I think, at first that it was all like females, but
Yeah.
there's actually a pretty big range, and there's like some pretty high end athletes in there. Like
Yeah, I'm sure.
they did a mile benchmarker the other day, and people were like getting 5 minute miles. Like not even exaggerating.
Yeah, I remember I went to one Orange Theory class and it was the one where you had to build up to 10 every minute, I think it is, or 30
Orange Everest,
seconds.
Orange Everest.
Oh my yeah, Orange Everest is what it's called, I guess. Yeah, so what is it? Every minute or every 30 seconds you go up an incline?
Yeah, and then you go down after you hit
Yeah,
50.
right.
You go down.
That I'm not gonna lie, that was an absolute bagger.
Oh, they're
Because
exhausted.
I'm a big body and these knees aren't meant for that.
Yep.
But one thing I do like about Orange Theory is those treadmills that they have.
Nice.
They're bouncy,
Yep.
so it's a little bit easier on the joints. Some of these treadmills, oh my gosh, they're so hard, and like I feel every step I'm
Yep.
taking.
No, I agree. They do a really nice job. Although we are giving them a little bit of.
Is this an Orange Theory ad?
I
Orange Theory.
was gonna say we're
Is
giving
this
them a little bit of polite banter right now.
We are. Is this
I'm team OTF. I'm team
this
Orange.
is this is paid advertisement for Orange Theory right
Maybe
now.
they'll
But
maybe
okay,
they'll reach out to us. It wouldn't be bad.
I want to circle back really quick to one more sauna thing I got.
Yeah.
And it's, how do you feel about this? So we have a pool right next to the sauna, right?
Okay.
People get out of the sauna with their sweaty bodies and they jump right into the pool.
Now, the pool
That's,
likely has an unhealthy amount of chlorine to kill things.
yeah, for
However,
sure.
however, when
Human speaking,
when you're at a
speaking
public
human.
gym, when you're at a public gym, you need to be doing the things that were going to draw the least attention to you over your
Yep.
hour that you're in there.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
go to the gym, right? Go right to the treads, stretch out, hop on the treads. You're done. Go to the bike, go to the weights. And now you're out of there. You
Right.
don't need all of a sudden to somebody's tying a rope to the second floor and they're climbing the rope climbs in LA Fitness. No,
Yeah.
it's unnecessary.
They're doing like back handsprings across the whole turf.
Yes.
Then they're doing like a sled pull. Then they're
Ye-
doing like 20 burpee. It's like a whole production.
Yes. You don't need to be the production man. If you're at a public gym, right? You want to go in the pool, let's go in the pool. But let's
Mhm.
not go in the pool with shoes on. Like you don't need to
Yeah.
see that either.
I don't need any extra clothing outside of your bathing suit.
Yes.
How do you
Regardless.
feel about t-shirt? How do you feel about t-shirt in the hot tub? I saw that too.
T-shirt in the you know what I don't mind the t-shirt play as it's eye catching. It is eye catching, but I
It's
don't
eye-catching.
mind. I don't mind the t-shirt play. I, do whatever you're comfortable with, but let's not draw the extra attention.
Yeah, I saw this guy at the gym. Actually, yet 2 days ago at the gym, and I was like, because we got a lot of gym bros at my place, so there a lot of them are flexing in the mirrors with the cutoffs and all that. And I go, oh, this guy, like he was like in good shape and stuff. I was like, oh, he looks cool. Like he's not showing off or anything. Like he's dressed normal, like how we would dress probably.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, he's flexing in the mirror. I'm like, you just ruined it for me. And he kept doing it too.
Yeah. So
And I was like, you just ruined it for me. I thought you were a cool guy.
what about
And
the grunting? What about grunting?
it depends. It really depends on the lift and then the person, because you can tell which people are grunting because they're lifting heavy weight and they are pushing themselves. And then you got the grunters who are doing it. So, people do like the side eye. How do
Yeah.
you feel about it?
I don't know. I think that to a certain extent, unless you were training for something like I don't know, maybe you're an Olympic lifter or something to that extent, right?
So no one in the gym that I go to should be
Yeah,
grunting.
likely. Likely. Like,
Right.
let's go to the gym, right? Let's get a little sweat in, feel good about yourself, and get out of there. I don't need to see failures. Gym fails. This is one of the most
Yeah.
outrageous things. You know, we talk about player awareness, right? Let's talk about gym awareness. You know, you're not benching 375. So let's
No.
keep it off the bar and let's keep us healthy. It's also not staying in the sauna.
Also, what is your consulting job need you benching 375 for?
It's
It's not.
likely. Maybe you're consulting for Orange Theory. I don't know. Likely, you don't need to be doing that. So let's
No.
keep ourselves healthy and not do that.
You just got to kind of remind yourself, in these situations that you're in a public area. Let's act like adults.
Almost like the airport when people are eating garlic and pepperoni pizzas. That
Yeah, it, it
last episode.
it really does boil down to, it's all the same situations. At the end of the day, it's all the same behaviors, just in different settings.
I
Is
love
what
it.
it comes down to.
I love it.
It's the same exact thing.
I love it. I love it. Does that wrap up episode 2 of the No One Told Me Hockey Podcast?
I think it does. I think we covered a lot of good things here in terms of hockey and then balance it out with a little humor today. I think that does it for us. We'll be back. I think we're going to try to release these every Monday. It seems like a good day to do it. So I think look out for episodes every Monday of the No One Told Me a Hockey Podcast with myself, Jack, and my boy Fletcher. Do you have anything else you want to add before we sign off?
I just say thanks for tuning in. Remember to follow Jack on TikTok at Hockey Aid. So
That's
Hockey
correct.
Aid on TikTok, you'll get a little bit of No One Told Me content, as well as some other great, useful hockey content as well. And we are looking forward to having you guys listen next week.
Let's go. One more thing I'll add is, if you have any questions that you want us to answer about hockey, junior hockey, college hockey, youth hockey, any hockey related questions, send me a DM on Instagram or email me. Just find a way. I think on Hockey Age, get in contact with me and ask the question. Then we can bring it up on the cast and go through it. So other than that, let's have a good rest of our week and a good weekend, and we'll talk to everyone later. I will see you later, Fletcher.
Love it. Rock and roll.